Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we're diving deep into a night that for many still feels like an open wound in the world of boxing. September 16th, 2017, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo Alvarez. This wasn't just a fight, it was an event, a clash of titans, and it ended up being a controversy that still echoes today. Marcus, I'm sure you remember it vividly.
Vividly, Jay. It's burned into my memory, man. That night wasn't just a robbery. It was a grand heist, broadcast globally. People were ready for a classic, and we got one in the ring, absolutely. But what happened after the final bell? That's what still boils my blood. GGG, Triple G, the undefeated knockout machine, against the golden boy, Canelo. It had all the ingredients, and then, poof, disappeared into thin air, a victory snatched away.
Yeah, let's set the stage a little more for those who might be new to this or need a refresher. You had Golovkin, the Kazakh Thunder, who hadn't just been winning, he'd been destroying. Undefeated, just a force of nature, known for his power punching and that relentless pressure-fighting style. He was a middleweight king, no doubt about it. And then you have Canelo, a phenom in his own right. Incredibly skilled, fantastic head movement, sharp counterpuncher, brilliant footwork. He was the younger, perhaps more marketable star in some circles. It was supposed to be a true test for both.
Absolutely. And for 12 rounds, man, Golovkin did what Golovkin does. He was the aggressor, pushing the pace, cutting off the ring, landing those thudding power shots. Every time Canelo tried to create space, GGG was right back in his chest. You saw Canelo having moments, of course, brilliant counter shots, some slick defense, but the sustained pressure, the volume, the ring generalship, it was all GGG, round after round. He controlled the narrative of that fight, you know?
That's exactly right. And most, if not all, competent observers watching that fight, from commentators to former pros to fans at home, they were seeing Golovkin winning the majority of those rounds. The punch stats, while not the be-all and end-all, certainly supported that narrative. Golovkin was outlanding Canelo significantly, especially in power shots. It wasn't even particularly close by the numbers, you know?
Not even close. I mean, I remember watching it with a group of friends, and we were all just nodding, like, yeah, GGG is putting on a clinic here. Canelo was tough, he took a lot of shots, he definitely had his moments, don't get me wrong. He landed some beautiful counters, showed his incredible chin, but it felt like GGG was consistently dictating, consistently in charge. There was no real question in our minds who was ahead.
Imish is that. Listen. And that leads us to the moment of truth, the decision. You had Dave Moretti, who scored at 115-113 for Golovkin, which felt reasonable to many. Then Don Trella had it 114-114, a draw, which was pushing it a bit for some, but still within the realm of possibility for a close fight. But then, you had Judge Adelaide Bird's scorecard. Marcus, I still get shivers thinking about it. 118-110 for Canelo Alvarez.
Adelaide Bird. That name became instantly infamous, Jay. 118-110 for Canelo. Are you kidding me? That means she gave Canelo TEN rounds and Golovkin only TCUO. I mean, I've watched that fight back countless times, tried to see it from every angle, tried to imagine a scenario where Canelo wins 10 rounds, and it's mathematically absurd. It's an insult to intelligence, it's an insult to the sport. It's just not what happened in the ring. You'd have to be watching a completely different fight, or be completely blind.
You really would. It suggested Canelo won 10 of the 12 rounds, which is just so far removed from what anyone with even a casual understanding of boxing saw that night. The immediate reaction was just universal outrage, not just from Golovkin fans, but from boxing purists, from sports analysts, from people who just love the sport and want to see fair play. It transcended fan bias, you know? This wasn't just a close decision. It was a decision that defied reality.
Absolutely, Jay. And it wasn't just hurt feelings. This had real-world financial consequences, man. Sportsbooks in Vegas, the major international ones, they had Golovkin as a massive favorite to win going into that decision. We're talking 500. People had bet good money on GGG, thinking it was a lock. And because of that utterly baffling scorecard, the controversy was so severe that many of these sportsbooks were forced to refund hundreds of thousands of dollars in bets. Refunds. That's how egregious it was. When money starts getting pulled back because a decision is so out of whack, you know you've got a serious problem.
It truly was unprecedented in modern boxing for a score to cause such a financial ripple. It wasn't just that it was wrong, it was spectacularly wrong. It wasn't even close enough to be considered a bad night. It felt like a different universe. And this brings up the fundamental question. How does a judge, a professional judge assigned to a world title fight, submit a scorecard so utterly divorced from the actual fight? Is it sheer incompetence? Is it bias? Or is there something more sinister at play? That's what everyone started asking.
Exactly. You start hearing the whispers, don't you? Fixed fight, politics in boxing. They're protecting their golden goose. And frankly, it's hard to argue against those theories when you see something like that. It just looks so corrupt, even if you can't prove it with a smoking gun. It undermines the entire integrity of the sport. If judges can just pull numbers out of thin air, what's the point of these warriors putting their lives on the line?
And that's the danger, isn't it? When the trust in the judging system erodes, the sport itself suffers. Adelaide Byrd was eventually placed on a temporary leave of absence, which was a clear acknowledgement from the Nevada State Athletic Commission that something was seriously amiss. But for many, that wasn't enough. It didn't change the official record, and it didn't give Golovkin the victory he earned. It just felt like a slap on the wrist for a monumental error that altered careers and legacies.
Totally. You know, I've seen bad decisions before. Every boxing fan has. But this one felt different. It felt personal almost, like the system was actively working against GGG, a guy who had earned everything he had through grit and power. He was the boogeyman of the middleweight division, and suddenly, he's getting held back by some utterly indefensible judging. It created this narrative, this belief, that Canelo was somehow being protected, that he was the cash cow they couldn't afford to lose to a pure knockout artist like Golovkin.
It certainly fueled that narrative, and it's a narrative that continues to haunt Canelo's career to some extent, despite his incredible accomplishments. For Golovkin, it was heartbreaking. He fought his heart out, dominated arguably the biggest fight of his career, and was denied the undisputed victory. It really highlights the subjectivity of boxing. But then again, a scorecard like Byrd's pushes it beyond subjectivity into something else entirely. There's a difference between a close fight that could go either way and a scorecard that just ignores reality.
Exactly. I'm all for subjectivity, Jay. I mean, we all see fights differently, right? One person values aggression, another values defense, another values clean punching. But there are limits. If you value Canelo's head movement and counterpunching to the point where you ignore GGG's consistent pressure, body shots, and ring control for 10 rounds, you're not judging the fight. You're just not watching it at all. It's like watching a football game and saying the team that punted on every down won because their punter had good hang time. It just doesn't make sense.
It's a great analogy, Marcus, and it really captures the frustration. This decision wasn't just a singular event. It had a cascading effect. It almost made the rematch inevitable, didn't it? The demand was so high because everyone felt cheated out of a clear winner. But even then, the controversy continued with the second fight, which many also felt Golovkin won, only for Canelo to get the majority decision. It further cemented that idea in many people's minds that GGG was getting a raw deal.
Oh, absolutely. The first fight set the stage for years of what-ifs and they robbed him. And the rematch? That was another whole can of worms, though not quite as blatant as Byrd's card, but it just added fuel to the fire. It made people suspicious, it made them distrustful, and it created this narrative that GGG, this humble, powerful, genuine guy, was up against more than just Canelo in the ring. He was up against the system, the politics, the money-making machine of boxing. It's a sad state of affairs when you feel that way about a sport you love.
It definitely is. And that's what makes this particular case study 7 Foot so compelling. It's not just about who won or lost. It's about the erosion of faith in the process. We're left with this lingering question. How can there be such a vast disconnect between what the vast majority of trained eyes see and what an official judge records? Is it that some judges truly have such a wildly different interpretation of the scoring criteria? Or is it something more insidious? Something that hints at external pressures or biases, conscious or unconscious?
I think it's a mix, honestly. I think there are judges who are just flat out incompetent, and that's terrifying. But I also think there's immense pressure in these big fights, especially when one fighter is the money man. It's easy to sway towards the favorite without even realizing it, or worse, with full intent. And that's why this fight, this exact scorecard, is so critical. It blew the lid off that conversation. It forced people to confront the darker side of boxing that many tried to ignore.
And it makes you wonder if we're all truly watching the same sport. Because you have those who defend Byrd, saying she valued Canelo's cleaner shots or defense more. But when the consensus is so overwhelmingly against a particular score, it just makes you question the very foundation of judging. It brings us back to that core idea of subjectivity versus objectivity in a combat sport. Can there be a right answer, or are we always going to be at the mercy of individual interpretation?
I think there can be a right answer, Jay, especially in fights where one fighter clearly dominates the key scoring criteria. Rounds are scored individually. You're looking for effective aggression, defense, clean punching, ring generalship. And GGG, in that first fight, checked off more boxes more consistently. It's not about being a fan of one guy or the other. It's about seeing what's happening. And what happened on Adelaide Byrd's card was just, it was malpractice. It was indefensible. And that's why we're still talking about it years later, still feeling that sense of injustice.
It left a stain, didn't it? A stain on the fight itself and on the integrity of the sport for many. It sparked investigations, renewed calls for judging reform, and really put a spotlight on the often opaque world of boxing commissions and their appointed officials. It forced a conversation that needed to happen, even if the resolution wasn't satisfying for everyone involved.
Definitely. It's like when you go to a restaurant, you expect to get the food you ordered, right? You don't expect them to bring you a completely different meal and tell you it's what you wanted. That's what that score